And now, aviation weather around Alaska. Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook. It is Saturday, June 1st, and this outlook will be for Sunday and on Monday. And of note, we've had a couple of areas of low pressure just kind of pivot down here through the lower Gulf, and they'll have a second one on Sunday doing a similar thing, keeping a band of some rain and rain showers going along areas of the Panhandle back to the Gulf Coast, including this western Gulf, especially around Kodiak City, picking up upwards of an inch of rainfall from this system. We have IFR conditions out over the Gulf and along the Kodiak Island coastline. Also IFR conditions here through the North Slope and along the Arctic coast down through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence, St. Matthew, St. Paul, and westward out into the western Aleutians. There are a couple other things too of note. As we go into early next week, Monday, Tuesday, there will be a pretty brisk northwesterly flow along the west side of the state down across the Aleutians. Just below normal temperatures will continue in those areas. Sunday afternoon, though, cumulus buildups. There could be some isolated to scattered thunderstorms. Areas of the Yukon Flats, 40-mile Gold Country east there of Fairbanks, and west as well a little bit. Along the Gulf, we find the IFR conditions diminishing a bit, though lingering along the coast areas there of the Kodiak Island. And then IFR conditions along the lower Yukon Delta, Emonic, on out toward St. Matthew and down to St. Paul for Sunday afternoon. On Monday morning, still IFR conditions here along the spine of the Brooks Range into the North Slope, especially central eastern Arctic coast. Still IFR down here along central and southwest areas of the Gulf, and then back out here across the southeast portion of the Bering, especially on the north side of the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. There's going to be another stronger, wetter low that's going to come up out of the North Pacific and then kind of sit through this region here of the Gulf, and it's going to fling a fair amount of moisture across the Panhandle back to the north and west for the midweek period, especially Tuesday through Thursday. By Wednesday, an easterly wave is going to come across the lower Yukon and then push through the Alaska Range. That'll enhance rainfall along and south of the Alaska Range, especially Tuesday into Wednesday, and then that moisture will bust out by Thursday up through the Yukon Valley. So just keep that in mind if you're planning ahead. So Monday afternoon, we expect additional scattered showers and thunderstorms popping up with the afternoon, evening heating. Same areas, Yukon Flats, areas west and east of Fairbanks, up the Tanana Valley, and even up to the north side here of the Wrangell-St. Elias Mountains. We anticipate generally MVFR conditions across the Gulf, but as I mentioned, there's another low with more moisture and some gusty winds that's going to come up and give a pretty good dousing of some rain here across the Panhandle. There could be some stronger winds along the southern areas of the Panhandle and the southwestern coast there of the Panhandle as we go through the day on Tuesday. So looking at pass conditions, north of Anaktuvik Pass, you're just going to run into IFR there along the north slope. Anaktuvik Pass, generally MVFR with VFR conditions there as you go south of the south entrance, especially by afternoon. Same thing for Adigan Pass, generally MVFR conditions through the pass, but if you just pop out north of there, IFR conditions across the north slope. MVFR early, becoming VFR around and south there of the south entrance. Lake Clark, Merrill, all across the Alaska Range, VFR. Rainy Pass, VFR. Windy Pass, VFR conditions eastward through Isabel and Mentasta Passes. And then Tanita Pass in the Copper River Basin, we expect VFR conditions on Sunday. Further southwestward, even Portage Pass looks pretty clear with VFR conditions. And then the far north end of the Panhandle, at least on Sunday, Chilkoot and White will remain VFR. Looking at the freezing levels at ground level in the morning on Sunday, temperatures do dip below freezing in the far northern Bering Sea, including St. Lawrence Island around Savunga, Gamble. Along the Chukchi Sea coastline and up along the spine of the Brooks Range up to just north of the McKenzie River entrance. Notice the ridging. We have freezing levels aloft above 6,000, probably upwards around 7 to near 8,000 feet here in areas of the east central interior and coming across the Yukon Northwest Territories. There are definitely warmer temperatures. High temperatures could be above 70 in areas here of the Yukon Flats. And cooler readings back out here. Well, we have an area of low pressure around here. and we have a system coming up from the south that freezing levels are still pretty low in the Bering. There could be some moderate icing here in the lower Bering above 4,000 feet. You have to get well south of the central Aleutians above 8,000 feet with that system. So with the low that remains here in the lower Gulf, a couple little things pivoting around with a band of rain, thicker cloud cover and precipitation. There could be some moderate icing areas of the southern southwest panhandle across the central to western Gulf above 6,000 feet. Within scattered convection across the east central interior, you can encounter icing above 8,000 feet. And then along the spine of the Brooks Range into the north slope, there could be some icing above 4,000 feet. Jet stream level winds, we have a core of stronger winds in the North Pacific, generally running west to east or northwest to east, southeast. It's all south of the Aleutians and south of the Gulf of Alaska, but winds are upwards above 100 knots and higher. As far as circulations, as we drop down to 700 millibars, you can see that circulation related to the low that's sitting here. And we find another circulation back out toward the eastern Aleutians. And then if we bring it down to 3,000 feet, we find a band of stronger winds along a old frontal boundary or trough, 30 to as high as 45 knots there, out in areas of the north central Gulf, well south of Yakutat Bay. And then here's a band of stronger winds. This is what I was hinting at here for along the west coast. This is going to spread southward down to along the Aleutian chain. This whole thing is going to kind of shift a little more east, but nevertheless, there's going to be some brisk north to northwest winds, initially up this area, northeast to north. And as a result, this region here, lower Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, could see some moderate turbulence on Sunday. Surface to 4,000 feet. We could also have some moderate turbulence, especially along the Kenai coast and northern part of Kodiak Island, the entrance of Cook Inlet, as well as the southern part of the Panhandle. Surface to 6,000 feet, and then way out toward the western Aleutians, there could be some moderate turbulence out there toward Shimia and Attu. Some moderate turbulence, surface to 3,000 feet.